Besides the stock market crash, the travels of the Little Southern Potatoes to Harbin was the most popular event on the Chinese internet. The Little Southern Potatoes is a name adopted by many for tourists or visitors from the southern regions of China who traveled to Harbin. Videos showed that during the new year, the Harbin airport was crowded both day and night.
It's 1:30 in the morning at Harbin Airport, and wow, there are so many people. It feels more like a train station during the Chinese New Year than an airport.
This is the current situation at Harbin Airport. Even the buses aren't this crowded. Why are there so many people here, even though it's in the middle of the night? Harbin Airport is swarming with people, and it's almost 1 a.m. now. Just look at the crowd.
Just to show how popular the Harbin Airport is, there's a flight every 5 minutes on average. Even the buses don't run like this. Currently, arriving at Asia's most popular street, the Central Boulevard in Harbin. It's so beautiful, a true marvel of the East.
To accommodate the large number of incoming visitors from the south, Harbin made extensive efforts to ensure their satisfaction, impressing even the residents of the Northeast. From using Rolls-Royces and Maybachs for transport, 5-meter-tall bouncy castles, snow sailors, and horses with wings, to a Harbin moon that never sets. If someone wanted to see penguins, they would present them to the public with backpacks to make the show more interesting. Northeastern tigers were trained to become obedient big cats, and one could hug a white fox for 30 yuan. Even the Orokin people, who are shamans, have come down from the mountains. Sweet tofu pudding and frozen pear sashimi were served, a delicacy even Zhang Zuolin, a historical Chinese warlord, didn't have the pleasure of trying. Concert tickets originally sold for 600 yuan, and China's unique molten iron throwing show performances, which had not been seen in decades, were all offered for free. Locals setting off fireworks were chased down streets, but the Little Southern Potatoes doing the same received police protection. Harbin went all out for these tourists coming from the south. According to Chinese media, over the 3-day New Year holiday, Harbin received a total of approximately 3 million visitors, generating a total income of 5.9 billion yuan. This level of income is a historic peak for Harbin. Consequently, both official and independent media began to extensively promote this, claiming it was a planned action to save the economy of Northeast China, bringing hope to the region's revitalization. Despite the hype caused by the media, locals in the Northeast remained calm about this economic boost. One local commented, "Why do people always believe that a short-term economic spike in one area can reverse the overall economic downturn in a region? As a citizen of the Northeast, the Harbin event had no impact on me. Only a small portion of the area and industry benefited. The problems faced by the Northeast are the same as those faced nationally, it's just more severe here." To discern whether China's problems are similar to those of the Northeast, one needs only to observe the reactions from various regions to Harbin's sudden popularity. The reaction of various regions to Harbin's boom gives an insight into whether China's problems are similar to those of the Northeast. Seeing such splendor raining down on Harbin, it's hard for anyone to remain indifferent. The videos flooding the screens drove the cultural tourism departments of other provinces and cities to craziness. To attract tourists, various regions started to intensely promote their tourism activities, resorting to interesting tactics like using attractive males and females for bait. One tourism official account posted over 100 videos in 4 days. In these absurd dramas, the competition wasn't about who was crazy in promotion, but who dared to be even crazier with their approach to boost the popularity of their tourism companies. Where there is hype, there's also skepticism. Some say that the recent tourism boom in Harbin is similar to last year's barbecue craze in Shandong. They argue that this is a classic example of the lipstick effect. The lipstick effect is an economic phenomenon that emerges during economic downturns. During the Great Depression in the 1930s in the United States, sales of lipsticks actually increased. This is because inexpensive, non-essential items like lipsticks replaced spending on other bigger and more costly items, satisfying the people's desire to consume. Additionally, the bright colors of lipsticks could comfort people in times of disappointment. Nowadays, with jobs hard to come by and young people facing financial constraints and immense pressure, spending a little money to seek solace in a barbecue or to linger in the sparkling, colorful world of ice and snow is their best way to temporarily escape reality and forget their financial worries. In recent years, the Chinese government has boasted about the booming tourism industry during holidays. However, when the three engines of economic growth, investment, consumption, and net exports, are all sluggish, can the tourism industry alone drive economic recovery and growth? At the beginning of last year, the trend of going to Zibo for barbecue was popular, but Zibo's total retail sales only grew by 8.3% in the first quarter, without any significant increase. Experts are looking forward to what kind of surprise Harbin will bring this year. When it was reported that Harbin earned 6 billion yuan in 3 days, many were unimpressed. One stated, "Our hospital's renovation, just a small 7-story building, cost over 100 million. A card reader from JD.com, worth only 200 yuan, was priced at 2,000. A heart monitor worth a couple of thousand was marked up to 20,000. What can 6 billion do in a provincial capital city?" Regarding Harbin's popularity with tourists, a netizen commented, "The tourism industry cannot be this booming every year. It's likely just a fleeting phenomenon. The real economic improvement of the Northeast can only be achieved if industries with high value are established here. But as Northeasterners, we know that's impossible, so we don't even consider the possibility of improving the economy. We believe being able to live a regular and plain life and to calmly wait for the end of life is already a blessing." The term venturing into the Northeast is well known in China. In the country, there was a historical and ongoing movement of people relocating to the northeastern region of China, known as Dongbei. What led to the decline of the Northeast, a region that was once a popular destination, in just a few decades? Before the establishment of the Republic of China, the Northeast, then known as Manchuria, was the only region in modern China with the conditions for large-scale agricultural and industrial development, making it a land of abundance. Due to relatively scarce coal resources in the northern China plains, industrial development faced struggles. Furthermore, the densely populated area with its deeply developed farmland and ingrained small-scale farming practices was not suited for large-scale mechanized farming. Manchuria was the best region in China for the simultaneous development of both agriculture and modern industry. The total area of the 3 northeastern provinces is slightly smaller than that of France and Germany combined. Before 1949, the industrialization of Manchuria was largely due to significant Japanese investment from 1905 to 1945. After the establishment of Manchukuo in 1936, they followed the Soviet Union's 5-year plan model, focusing on railway and heavy industry investment, promoting the strategy of industrial Japan, raw material Manchuria. By the end of World War II in 1945, 55% of China's total railway mileage was in Manchuria. The industrial capacity of Manchuria had surpassed that of Japan, which was much damaged by American bombings. In the 1940s and 1950s, the Northeast had the largest heavy industry field in Asia. After 1949, as a heavy industry base for the Chinese government, the Northeast supported China's economic lifeline. However, with the Chinese Communist Party's exploitative use of resources like oil and coal, the Northeast supplies gradually depleted, turning its once prosperous days into a situation of the past. In the 1990s, China started reforming state-owned enterprises, and the 3 northeastern provinces, as a hub of these enterprises, suffered devastating blows. A Chinese website, Jihu, once published an article titled, "The Tragic Lives of Laid-Off Workers in the Northeast," in which the author described the so-called reforms for Northeasterners as layoffs, akin to a disaster. According to public records, from 1995 to 2002, nearly 10 million state-owned enterprise employees in the 3 northeastern provinces were laid off. In Heilongjiang province alone, 1.5 million people were laid off between 1997 and 1998, accounting for 11% of the province's workforce. In the Northeast, where large state-owned enterprises are concentrated, factories were like small societies, encompassing all public services like hospitals, schools, bathhouses, and even crematoriums. In large factories with tens of thousands of employees, it was common for both spouses and even multiple family members to work in the same factory. When they were laid off simultaneously, the entire family lost all income and access to any public services. In the account of the tragic lives of laid-off workers in Northeast China, the author narrates a story. A couple, both laid off, repeatedly faced rejections in their job search, and eventually had to rely on meals at their retired parents' home. After enduring contempt from their relatives one morning, they prepared a delicious meal with pork, a rarity for their child who relished it. Unbeknownst to the child, it was their last meal together. A packet of rat poison ended all 3 lives. However, the news of the deaths hardly caused a ripple in the vast city. Everyone was preoccupied with their survival, uncertain if they would face a similar fate. Northeast China's industrialization was primarily based on coal and steel industries, and not on complex manufacturing. Despite having a large industrial base, the industrial chain was simplistic. The Northeast has yet to develop modern industries like technology, creative sectors, and services, which are vital for supporting employment and contributing to economic stability. According to experts, the sudden influx of a large unemployed population into society, having spent decades in a secure environment, lacked the survival skills to adapt to these environmental changes. The lack of demand for a diverse workforce lowered the average wage level, causing damage to the economy. This problem remains unresolved, with new challenges emerging. Additionally, since the late 1990s, population decline and low birth rates in the three provinces of the Northeast are becoming increasingly severe. From 2010 to 2022, the combined population of these provinces decreased by nearly 13 million, the most significant population loss in the country. This is attributable to both migration and the falling birth rates. Currently, the Northeast has the lowest birth rate in China and the highest rate of aging. In 2022, in the northeast of China, Heilongjiang's birth rate was 3.3%, the lowest in the country. Liaoning's was just over 4%, the second lowest, and Jilin's was 4.3%, the third lowest. In terms of aging, Liaoning leads with 25.7% of its population over 60 years old. Statistically, this means that 1 in 4 people in the province is elderly. Heilongjiang ranks third and Jilin fourth, nationwide. In investment circles, there's a widely known saying, "Don't invest beyond the Shanghai Guan Pass." This advises investors to avoid stocks of northeastern companies and doing business in the region. The failure of industrial upgrading and the significant population loss, coupled with corruption stemming from bureaucratic culture and clique culture, has led to massive losses of state assets. This corruption undermines social fairness and efficiency, and has destroyed the vitality of the three northeastern provinces, accelerating their decline. The Northeast has become a neglected part of China's economy. On August 3, 2004, former Premier Wen Jiabao held a meeting in Changchun to initiate the national policy of revitalizing the old industrial base of Northeast China. The CCP's financial investment in the Northeast over the past 20 years has been substantial. According to China Business Network, from 2003 to 2022, the central government's transfer payments to Liaoning, Jilin, and Heilongjiang amounted to 3.3 trillion, 2.9 trillion, and 5.9 trillion yuan, respectively. In terms of project support, in 2014, the State Council of China issued opinions on major policy measures to support the revitalization of the Northeast in the near term, including 139 major projects with a total investment of nearly 2 trillion yuan. In August 2016, the National Development and Reform Commission issued a 3-year rolling implementation plan for revitalizing old industrial bases, such as the Northeast, containing 127 major projects with a total investment of about 1.6 trillion yuan. Among these, projects for the transformation of resource-exhausted cities and livelihood protection were generally underwritten by central finance. Additionally, there were targeted assistance projects by state-owned enterprises and support from state-owned financial institutions. In 2006, China's 4 major state-owned commercial banks wrote off historical debts of Northeast state enterprises, amounting to 311 billion yuan. In 2018, 16 banks including China Construction Bank and Industrial and Commercial Bank of China provided a one-time credit of 1 trillion yuan to FAW Group for enterprise restructuring and new project investments. There were also other central budget special allocations and tax reductions. For example, between 2004 and 2005, the central government allocated 38.7 billion yuan to support bankrupt industrial enterprises in the 3 northeastern provinces, and 24 billion yuan for agricultural subsidies. In 2006, the State Council approved the exemption of outstanding tax liabilities from previous years for financially troubled enterprises. These foregone taxes exceeded approximately 10 billion yuan in total, and in addition, 9.36 billion yuan in exempted taxes and fees for the purchase of various machinery and equipment to support production capacity. In 2011, Central Finance arranged 62.1 billion yuan for special employment funds and pension subsidies for workers, 12.9 billion yuan for urban and rural subsistence allowances, and 8.7 billion yuan for special water conservancy subsidies. From 2014 onwards, the Central Finance allocated 2.35 billion yuan annually to support the pilot project in Heilongjiang to stop commercial logging in forest areas. In 2015, 47.4 billion yuan of central budget funds were arranged to support affordable housing projects, urban infrastructure, and the construction of old industrial zones and independent industrial and mining areas. Despite the investment of tens of trillions of yuan, the reality is that the decline of the Northeast accelerated, along with the implementation of the national policy to revitalize the Northeast. In 2004, the per capita GDP of the three northeastern provinces was one-third higher than the national average. By 2019, it had become one-third lower. Guizhou province is traditionally known to be one of the poorer provinces in China. Although in 2005, the economic output of Heilongjiang was nearly double that of Guizhou, by 2022, it was about a quarter less than Guizhou. Jilin province, home to large state enterprises like FAW, Jilin chemical industry, and Changchun railway vehicles, had an even worse GDP than Heilongjiang in 2022. In the economic output rankings of China's 31 provincial-level administrative regions for 2022, Heilongjiang ranked 25th, Jilin 26th, and Liaoning fared slightly better at 17th. In September 2023, weeks after a typhoon had passed and the disaster sites had already been cleaned up, Xi Jinping visited Heilongjiang to see the disaster-affected people. During his visit, Xi Jinping chaired a series of symposiums to plan and carry out the revitalization of the Northeast. Some people from the Northeast said that they grew up hearing the slogan, "Revitalize the Northeast," but 20 years have passed with no change, and things have even worsened. The phrase now irritates them when they hear it. Others pointed out more bluntly that the current economic problems are obvious even to a blind person. Criticizing the economic interests of the CCP can be perceived as a significant threat, and attempting to alter their perspective is seen as confrontational. As long as the CCP continues its control over China's economic lifeline, the fate of the Northeast today is the fate of China tomorrow.